AITA for moving 800 miles away after my wife weaponized intimacy to control me? I 31-year-old man. I have been married to my 29-year-old wife for 5 years now. We met at a hipster music festival, one of those ultra-cool ones where I pretended to know all the obscure bands, and she pretended not to notice my looks. Somehow, this stunning marketing manager with consistently perfect hair and a corner office decided that my collection of graphic t-shirts and my ability to cook made me a good potential husband. Our relationship was solid during the first few years. We had found a good balance. I have always been the creative type and pretty good at cooking, so I managed most of the meals and the household stuff. Not because I was a pushover, but because I genuinely enjoyed it and worked from home several days a week as a freelance graphic designer. Anyway, I am that guy who gets recommendations for obscure cooking techniques and actually uses them. My smoked brisket is legendary among our friends. I am just saying. Meanwhile, she was crushing it in her marketing job, bringing in a higher salary than my design projects, and she had corporate contacts who sometimes helped me land good freelance gigs. I had flexibility, she had stability. I brought creativity, she brought structure. We complemented each other rather well. We also made major decisions together. Big purchases, vacations, that sort of thing. It was always a team effort. I planned most of our date nights because I am spontaneous and she appreciated not having to make more decisions after a day of corporate meetings. On weekends, we switched roles. She cooked her grandmother's secret recipes while I took care of the backyard. Everything seemed balanced, like we each brought something valuable to the relationship. Our intimate relationship was decent too. It was regular and fulfilling for both of us. I always made sure she felt cared for first. Not a brag, but I thought we handled that part of our marriage pretty well. But something started to change about a year ago. Little things at first that I did not really pay attention to. She would get annoyed if I made plans without asking her first. She made little remarks about my supposedly immature friends or my hobbies. I brushed it off, telling myself she must just be stressed with work or something like that. Then last Tuesday, everything flipped. I was in the mood when we got home from our day. I leaned in to kiss her on the cheek while she was checking her phone on the couch. She immediately pushed me away. Nothing dramatic. Not everyone is in the mood all the time. But then, she gave me this icy glare and told me something I will never forget. Physical intimacy is out of the question, as long as you do not obey me. I literally burst out laughing. Like, who says something like that? It had to be a joke. Obeying her, what was that? A new game? I asked her, thinking she was joking. Her face was completely serious, not a single sign of humor. I am completely serious. I have been thinking about the dynamic of our relationship, and I need you to start respecting my boundaries and my authority. I was so lost, I did not even know what to answer. What are you talking about? What boundary did I cross? And then, she drops the bomb on me. You accepted your friend's invitation for your college buddy's dinner without talking to me about it first. For context, my best friend since freshman year had texted me to suggest a dinner on Thursday. Our group gets together every few months to eat, just to catch up, talk fantasy football, complain about work. I had mentioned it to my wife earlier in the day. I did not think it required a formal consultation or whatever. Are you serious right now? I asked. It is just a dinner with the guys, the same guys I have known for over 10 years. She crossed her arms and leaned against the doorframe, as if she were posing for a dramatic photo. It is not about the dinner. It is a matter of respecting my opinion and the decisions that affect both of us. How does going out to eat wings with the guys for a few hours on a Thursday affect both of us? I asked, genuinely confused. Our time together is limited with our schedules. When you make unilateral decisions about your availability, you take away from our quality time. She explained to me as if I were a child incapable of understanding a simple concept. And then I understood. It was not the first time she got annoyed that I did my own things, but it was clearly the first time she used our intimate relationship as a tool to control me. So, you are withholding affection to control me? I asked, trying to keep a steady voice. I prefer to think that I am setting boundaries, she answered with a little shrug that made my blood run cold. When you start consulting me before making plans, we can resume a normal marital relationship. The way she said it, so casually, as if she were talking about the weather, gave me the chills. All those little things I had ignored resurfaced all at once. The way she would go silent and disappointed when I wanted to see my parents instead of staying with her. The passive-aggressive remarks when I played basketball on Saturdays with my buddies. The way she had gradually distanced me from my friends whom she called a bad influence. Basically, anyone encouraging me to have a life outside of her. I think what scared me the most was realizing that this was not new. Looking back, I can see she had been conditioning me for years so that I would always prioritize her approval above all else. She had just never said it so explicitly before. That night, I slept on the couch. I chose to because I could not lie next to someone who considers love as some sort of transaction, as if I had to earn physical affection by being her perfect little puppet. While trying to fall asleep, I started to review our relationship from a completely different angle. How she would shut down emotionally every time I did not do exactly what she wanted. The silences that lasted for days until I apologized for things that were not even my fault. The way she criticized my clothes, my friends, my hobbies, anything that was not centered around her. I always thought we had a good marriage, that I was lucky to have her. Now, I wondered if I had been wearing blinders all this time. The worst part was that I had no idea what I was supposed to do next. That night, I paced around the den for 2 hours, just trying to understand. I felt like my brain was short-circuiting. 1 minute, I was angrily scrolling through our old photos looking for signs I had missed. The next, I wondered if I was the crazy one in the story making a big deal out of it. Maybe all marriages have their power struggles. Maybe I was exaggerating. But then, I thought back to that cold look when she told me, "Obey me," and my stomach tied into knots again. I must have drafted and deleted about 20 messages to the guys that night, unable to find the words to explain what was happening. How do you explain to your friends? Oh, by the way, it turns out my wife considers me a trained pet. I felt completely lost in my own life. One thing was certain though, something had changed in me. This ultimatum did not make me cave as she undoubtedly expected. On the contrary, it woke up something I had buried for too long, my self-respect. I fell asleep on that uncomfortable couch with a single thought playing on a loop. There is a line not to be crossed. If you keep pushing someone backward, they eventually stop stepping back and start pushing back. The next morning was strange. We followed our usual routine, coffee, breakfast, a quick kiss before leaving, but my mind was racing in all directions. I tried a more diplomatic approach. I found her in the kitchen making coffee and decided to extend an olive branch. "Hey, about last night, maybe we should talk about what is really going on. Is there something bothering you at work, or did I do something I am unaware of?" I asked, trying to keep a neutral tone. She barely looked up from her phone. If you cannot understand how making plans without consulting me is a lack of respect, then we have bigger problems than I thought. I told you about the dinner earlier in the day, I reminded her, but that is not even the issue. This whole obey me thing is extreme for something so insignificant. That is what I am trying to understand. She set her mug down a bit too hard. It is never just a little thing with you. It is a constant pattern of ignorance. You act as if my opinion does not matter. When have I ever made you feel that way? Seriously, give me examples. I was genuinely lost. Last month, you ordered that new office chair without asking me. It was for my office, bought with my money, from my side project. Our house, our money. She corrected me with the tone of a teacher explaining something to a child. And last week, you stayed up playing video games until 2 in the morning when you knew I wanted to watch that show with you. I asked you if you wanted to watch it, and you said you were tired. She crossed her arms. I expected you to insist, to show that spending time with me is a priority. I stared at her, completely dumbfounded. How am I supposed to know that if you literally say the opposite? A good husband would know, she replied, grabbing her bag. I am going to be late for work. We will continue this conversation when you are ready to really listen. And she left, just like that. I stood there in the kitchen feeling like I had failed a test I completely ignored existed. How could I not have seen this earlier? How much of myself had I already sacrificed? And did I still want to save this marriage? I called my buddy to cancel the dinner. Not because I was giving in to my wife, but because I needed space to think. When I told her I was not going, she gave me this little smug smile that made me want to throw up. You see, it was not that difficult, she said, rubbing her hand on my shoulder as if I were a well-trained dog. When you take my feelings into account, everything is better for both of us. I nodded, but in my head, the plans were already starting. If she wanted to play games with our marriage, she was going to find out that I was not the doormat she thought I was. Over the next few days, I played along, observing her as if I were seeing her for the first time. It was like putting on glasses after years of squinting. Suddenly, all those patterns I had ignored were crystal clear. At dinner that night, I casually mentioned a design project that might take up some of my hours on the weekend. Her reaction was immediate. "You are not seriously considering that," she said, setting down her fork as if I had suggested something outrageous. "We always spend our weekends together. It is our time. The extra money would help for our vacation," I pointed out, watching her face closely. "Money is not everything," she replied, putting on that soft, honeyed voice I now recognized as pure manipulation. What is the point of going on vacation if we are too disconnected to enjoy it? Before, I would have immediately caved, apologizing for daring to disrupt her precious routine. This time, I simply nodded and changed the subject, mentally noting how well she knew how to turn a professional opportunity into a relationship betrayal. That weekend, I made my first real move. I joined a serious gym, not just any gym, a hardcore one run by a college buddy. I had always been in decent shape, but if I was going to rebuild myself, I might as well start with the body. When I told my wife I was leaving to work out on Saturday morning, she looked confused. "Since when do you go to the gym?" she asked. "Since today," I answered, grabbing my water bottle. I figured it would do me good. "We always have brunch on Saturdays," she reminded me, as if I had forgotten our entire routine. "We will have brunch tomorrow," I said with a shrug. "I will make those pancakes you love." Before she could protest, I was out the door and in my car. That first session wrecked me, but it felt good to do something just for myself. I started going every other day. My buddy made me a workout program and a nutrition plan. Meanwhile, I reconnected with my best friend and explained what was happening at home. "Bro, I was starting to think you had fallen off the face of the earth," he told me, genuinely concerned. "Everything is fine." "I do not know," I confessed. "It is complicated at home." She finally showed her true colors. He raised an eyebrow as if he had been waiting for me to say that for a long time. "Yeah, man," I figured. "We all noticed it a while ago." "What do you mean?" I asked, surprised. He started listing things I had ignored or justified. How she had caused a scene at his wedding just because the attention was not on her, or that time she suddenly got sick right before our camping trip with the guys, then miraculously recovered when I said I would stay with her. "Man, it is obvious to everyone except you," he said, just being honest. Hearing it from an outsider, put together like that, it hit me hard. It was as if a switch had been flipped in my head. The next day, I wanted to test the waters. I told her, not asked, told her that I was having lunch with my buddy the following day. She exploded. "So this is how you respond to my concerns, by deliberately defying me?" "I am not defying you," I said, keeping my calm. "I am just catching up with a friend. It is normal human behavior. Normal people consult their spouse before making plans," she shot back. "Consult or ask for permission?" I replied, "because those are two very different things." Her eyes narrowed dangerously. "If you leave this house tomorrow, do not expect anything from me for a very long time. Just know that our intimate relationship will be on hold until further notice." Once again, the threat, intimacy used as a tool of control. But this time, instead of feeling scared, I felt strangely free. Her power over me only existed because I valued that part of our marriage more than my freedom. What would happen if I changed that equation? "I can live with that consequence," I said, surprising both of us with my calmness. For a split second, I saw panic in her eyes, the first real emotion in days. She quickly composed herself, her expression hardening again. "We will see how long you last before you come crawling back," she snapped, turning away. "You always do." That night, I scrolled through our old photos, the ones from the beginning. Were there warning signs from day one? Had I ignored red flags because she was beautiful and made me feel special when I did exactly what she wanted? The truth hit me like a ton of bricks. Our entire relationship was based on a lopsided power dynamic that I had simply accepted. But now that I saw it, it was impossible to turn back. This pattern was going to end one way or another. Lunch with my buddy was like breathing fresh air after years in a basement. For 2 hours, I talked without measuring every word. No strategic concessions to avoid her disapproval. Just a real conversation. "You seem different," he told me as he finished his plate. "More like the old you." I am starting to remember who that guy was, I admitted. When I got home, she was waiting for me, stiff and overflowing with suppressed rage. I braced myself for the storm, but instead of engaging in the fight, I simply smiled and walked past her to go to my home office. "That is it," she called out behind me. "Nothing to say in your defense." I turned around, my face neutral. I had lunch with a friend. It was nice. There is nothing more to say. Her mouth opened and then closed like a fish. I had gone off script. She needed me to apologize or counterattack. Either of those reactions would have confirmed that she still controlled my emotions. Over the following days, I started what I secretly called my strategy of silent resistance. Instead of provoking her directly, I quietly took back pieces of my independence without making a big deal out of it. And with a bit of discipline, I completely transformed my life. I was now hitting the gym 5 times a week and starting to see real results. My buddy had set me up with a weightlifting program and a high-protein diet. I had lost about 15 pounds of fat and started to build muscle. I also upgraded my wardrobe. No more baggy jeans and graphic tees. Time for well-fitted clothes. At work, I started networking more, volunteering for important projects instead of accepting whatever was handed to me. I updated my portfolio and my LinkedIn profile. I was laying the groundwork, even if the missus did not realize it. I also quietly reopened my personal bank account from before the marriage, not to hide money, just to have some breathing room after seeing how defensive she got whenever I bought something without her approval. Every little act of independence was met with increasingly heavy-handed tactics, tears, accusations, guilt-tripping, and of course, the ongoing restriction on our intimate relationship. But something surprising happened. Every day, her leverage lost its strength. By removing the physical affection card, she had broken her own power. The initial frustration gave way to total clarity. I realized how much my actions were aimed at keeping her satisfied enough so that she would agree to be intimate, to validate my worth. Without that reward system, I finally saw the massive price I was paying. 2 weeks after the start of my little rebellion, she changed her strategy. I came home from the gym one evening and found her in an ultra-seductive outfit, candles lit, a total attempt at reconnection. "I have been thinking," she said in a falsely sweet voice. "I might have overreacted to certain things. We do not need to stay in this standoff." I recognized the maneuver immediately. The pressure having failed, she was bringing out the incentive. A temporary surrender to regain control. Once I fell back under her spell, all the conditions would gradually return. "I appreciate the gesture," I said cautiously, "but I think we need to address the underlying issues before getting back to that part of our marriage." Her seductive smile faltered. "What issues?" "I am just trying to move forward." "That is the thing," I replied. "Moving forward requires acknowledging what happened first. We still have not talked about the fact that you deemed it appropriate to use our intimate relationship as a control mechanism." For a second, the mask slipped, a flash of cold calculation in her eyes. Then she pulled herself together. "What? You are exaggerating." I was upset. I said something I did not mean. "We can just forget it." "Actually, I do not think you said something you did not mean," I answered calmly. "I think you expressed exactly how you view our relationship, and that is what we need to discuss." She stood up abruptly, dropping the reconciliation act. "So now you are a relationship expert? Analyzing my words like a therapist?" "No," I said calmly. "Just someone who is finally starting to pay attention." That night, while she slammed doors and put on a whole show to demonstrate she was furious, I felt something new settle inside me. Not anger, not resentment, just indifference. Her approval, her disapproval, her little emotional maneuvers, it all was losing its grip on me. I fell asleep with a thought that would have terrified me a few weeks earlier. I was ready to lose this marriage if saving it meant losing myself. 3 months into what my buddy jokingly called my glow-up era, I was a different man physically and mentally. I had lost even more weight, gained visible muscle, and completely revamped my wardrobe. At work, I had landed a big client that put me on the company's radar. But the biggest changes were invisible. The confidence, the mental clarity, and the absolute refusal to be manipulated. That is when my escape plan really started to take shape. I had secretly applied for positions in Seattle, far enough for a real fresh start, but still on the West Coast where the design industry was booming. I had always dreamed of working for a big tech company out there, and my updated portfolio was finally attracting the right attention. Then the email dropped on an ordinary Wednesday morning. A major tech company wanted me to lead their UX team in their Seattle office. Permanent position, relocation assistance. Salary nearly doubled. But above all, The distance, 800 miles of separation. A real reason to hit the reset button. I forwarded the email to my personal account before she could stumble upon it on the family computer. That evening, I slipped it into the conversation, watching her like a hawk. A company in Seattle reached out to me. It could be an opportunity for advancement, I said in a casual tone. She smiled as if it were our victory. A promotion would be great for us. Yes, us, even when it was clearly my career. It might involve more responsibilities, maybe a change of scenery, I added. Her smile faded. As long as it does not disrupt our life at home. You tend to withdraw when you are overwhelmed. What she calls withdrawing, I call setting boundaries. I remained vague on purpose. Then that weekend, I dropped the real bomb. Public place, calculated timing. About that job, it is in Seattle. Her knife hit the plate. Seattle, Washington? That is right. You seriously want to cross the entire country? The position is permanent with relocation. A huge step. And me? Our life here? Did that cross your mind? Not for a second did she ask what it meant for me. Just her routine, her comfort zone. We could see it as an adventure, I suggested. You always say you want to see more of the country. On vacation, not to uproot my entire life. You would find work. Seattle is overflowing with marketing offers. Her eyes narrowed. You planned all this without me. I am telling you right now. The deadline is in a week. There is nothing to decide. We are not going. Period. The old me would have caved. Instead, I held her gaze. That might be the end of it for you. But I have not decided yet. She froze. It was no longer about a job. It was a direct attack on her control. If you take this job, I will not come with you, she threatened. Cool, I replied calmly. That is your choice. Game flipped. That night, while she slept, I spent hours in my home office, crunching numbers, researching apartments in Seattle, making lists of what I would take or not. The more real the possibility became, the lighter I felt, as if gravity itself had less of a hold on me. The next day, the human resources director from the Seattle company called. They needed an answer within 48 hours. I will give you my answer tomorrow, I promised, surprisingly serene. Hanging up, I found my wife standing in the doorway. Arms crossed, expression unreadable. Who was that? Human resources for the Seattle job. The deadline was moved up. She crossed her arms even tighter. And what are you going to tell them? I looked at this woman I had spent years trying to please, and I felt something break for good. I am going to tell them yes, I said, not as a challenge, but as a simple fact. She did not react right away. She just stared at me with an expression I had never seen on her, a mix of disbelief, rage, and fear. The control she thought was absolute was slipping away from her. Are you bluffing? She finally said in a voice that was too calm. You would not sacrifice our marriage for a job? I am not sacrificing anything, I corrected. I am accepting a career opportunity. Whether that ends our marriage is entirely in your hands. She laughed. So, I am the crazy one because I do not want to uproot my whole life for your little Seattle whim. No, you are unreasonable because you assume I would automatically turn down a major opportunity without discussion. Because you believe your comfort comes before my ambitions. Because you think you have veto power over my professional decisions. That is what marriage is, she was yelling. Compromise, respect, putting the relationship first. Compromise goes both ways, I shot back. And you? When was the last time you compromised on something important? When did you put my needs before your preferences? She recoiled as if I had slapped her. I have sacrificed everything for this relationship, she claimed. Just one example. I asked, one real sacrifice you made that was not just to maintain your comfort and the status quo. Her silence was worth 1,000 answers. She paced the living room, looking for a new strategy. Let us calm down, she finally said, becoming conciliatory. We say things we do not mean. Let us talk about it calmly tomorrow. It was her usual playbook, delay, pacify, then redirect once emotions cooled down. But I was done playing. There is nothing left to discuss, I said firmly. I made my decision. I am moving to Seattle next month. You are welcome to come if you want, or not. That is your decision. If you do this, she said, her voice dropping to a dangerous whisper, there will be no turning back. Do you understand? Yes, I understand perfectly. And you are still choosing this job over me? Over everything we have built. This way of framing the question, as if I were choosing a job against her, perfectly crystallized everything wrong with our relationship. In her mind, any decision that did not prioritize her was a betrayal. I am choosing me, I clarified, probably for the first time since we met. My God, her face. If looks could kill, I would be buried long ago. Something snapped inside her. She exploded. You selfish man, she screamed. After everything I have done for you. I stood still, refusing to enter the chaos she was trying to provoke. It was a familiar tactic, create a crisis to divert attention from the real issue, reposition herself as the victim. I managed your life, she continued, now in tears. I shaped you into someone better than you were. Without me, you would still be that aimless, spineless person I found. In a few sentences, she revealed more truth than in years of carefully calculated manipulation. She had never wanted a partner. She wanted a project, a possession, something that validated her importance. Thank you for your honesty, I said softly. That clears up a lot of things. My calm reaction fueled her fury. In her anger, she flipped over the dining table, sending plates and glasses crashing to the floor. There, she screamed. Is this what you wanted? Everything destroyed. I looked at the overturned furniture, the shattered dishes, the physical manifestation of her loss of control, and I felt a strange peace. Sometimes, things need to break so they can be rebuilt properly. I went to our bedroom and started packing a suitcase. She followed me, oscillating between threats and begging, promises and accusations. I continued methodically, sorting, folding, organizing. Where are you going? She demanded as I zipped the suitcase. To my buddy's place, just for tonight. I will sort out the rest later. If you walk out that door, I am changing the locks. That will make breaking the lease easier, I noted calmly. But it is your choice. As I headed for the exit, she tried her final strategy. She collapsed to her knees, grabbing my clothes, sobbing. Please, I am begging you. I will do anything. We can fix this. I will go to therapy. I will change. For a moment, I hesitated, the old reflex of feeling responsible. Then I gently removed her hands from me. I really hope you get help, I said sincerely. But not for me, for you. I walked out with my suitcase and this strange feeling of freedom I had not felt in years. I drove straight to my buddy's place. The following weeks were a whirlwind of lawyers and logistics. I stayed at my buddy's place while organizing the move to Seattle. She alternated between anger, walls of texts accusing me of being a monster, and bargaining, promising everything would change if I came back. I hired a family law attorney to handle the divorce. Since we had no children, it focused mainly on dividing our assets and finances fairly. She fought over everything, from the coffee maker to the toaster. What surprised me the most was how many people had seen this pattern long before I did. Friends I had not seen in a long time messaged me. Finally, man, we were waiting for you to realize it. My parents, always strangely cautious around her, finally admitted they had been worried for years. You looked happy, my mom said, but also smaller, less yourself. The day I accepted the Seattle offer was also the day I filed for divorce. Not out of spite. It was simply time to make everything official. When she found out through my lawyer, she sent me a single text. You will regret this when you are alone and realize what you have lost. I stared at that message for a long time. Then I replied, I would rather be alone and whole than together and empty. She did not answer. The divorce was finalized faster than expected. Once she realized I was not coming back, she took most of the furniture. I took my freedom. Fair trade. I kept up the gym habit. I even started training for a half marathon, something I never would have imagined before. I lost 40 pounds in total, and I have visible abs now. Who knew they were hiding under there? 3 months after arriving in Seattle, I met someone without looking for it at all. My work buddy literally had to drag me to a community art workshop because he did not want to go alone. Man, it is just painting. There is literally zero risk, he insisted. I reluctantly agreed just to make him stop insisting. So there I was, butchering what was supposed to be a landscape, when this gorgeous woman next to me started laughing at her own equally disastrous artwork. I think mine looks like a painting by a drunk 3-year-old, she said, turning her canvas toward me. Well, mine looks like what that drunk child's imaginary friend would have painted, I replied, showing her my disaster. She is an elementary school teacher with a real personality of her own, not a personality crafted to impress anyone. No designer clothes, no power plays, just genuine warmth and a killer sense of humor. We were the worst painters in the class, but we ended up getting dinner together, talking until the restaurant closed. The biggest difference? When I tell her I am going to see my buddies or that I want to try a new hobby, she is happy for me instead of guilt-tripping me. When she is busy with school stuff, I give her space instead of demanding attention. We respect each other's independence while choosing to be together. Revolutionary concept. I was hesitant to jump into anything after the disaster of my marriage, but she never applied any pressure. We are just two people getting to know each other, she told me. No pressure, no expectations. The strangest part was realizing that this is how healthy relationships are supposed to be. That evening, I met up with some friends for dinner. People who knew bits and pieces of my story without ever reducing me to it. My new girlfriend was there too, blending in perfectly as if she had known them forever. While we were talking about an upcoming hiking trip, she reached out and gently placed her fingers on mine, giving me a little squeeze, not possessive, not demanding. Just a discreet and tender "I am here." A tiny gesture, but light years away from my ex grabbing my arm to steer me around at parties like a trained animal. She must have noticed me zoning out for a second because she leaned in slightly and asked, "Are you okay?" Gently, without accusation. Just genuine concern. "Better than fine," I answered honestly. I just realized something. What hit me was simple but profound. Physical intimacy, real intimacy, is not a bargaining chip. It is not something you earn through obedience, nor something you withdraw as punishment. Real intimacy is born of mutual respect, the freedom to be fully yourself while still being cherished. My ex had declared that physical intimacy was off the table until I obeyed her. In response, I did not just flip that table. I built a new one, solid and balanced, with room for people who understand the difference between love and control. Raising my glass to toast to the adventures ahead, I silently thanked my ex for the ultimatum that finally set me free. Sometimes, the worst things that happen to you lead you exactly where you need to be. Edit to answer the most frequently asked questions. Yes, my girlfriend and I are still dating 8 months later, and everything is going great. My ex still occasionally sends manipulative messages, but I blocked her on most platforms. And yes, the rain in Seattle is very real, but honestly, I prefer it 1,000 times over a toxic relationship. Comment. This story really touched me deeply. I have come to realize how vital it is to protect your self-respect. You should never have to shrink yourself just to keep someone else comfortable. Setting healthy boundaries is truly an act of self-love. Taking full responsibility for your own peace can change everything for the better. The path to healing may be challenging, but it always leads to genuine freedom. Being kind to yourself first opens the door to healthier relationships. I hope this encourages you to reflect on what you truly deserve in life. Remember that you are worthy of love that feels safe and respectful. Let's keep supporting one another as we grow into healthier and happier versions of ourselves. If you like the stories, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.